All right, so we just finished doing that Zoom call with that was obviously SEMA and their EPA liaisons. If you guys can tell, I'm not in the normal office. This is actually my main office, so I wanted to do the call in a quiet environment. And guys, the most important part, if as you watch this, was how we're going to spread the information. I need you guys to smash that like button. As you guys know, the YouTube algorithm needs that like button and it needs the comment. So comment below. What did you guys think of the interview, of the questions? And guys, subscribe really does help us. We're trying to grow this channel. And I will see you guys in the next Talking Mods.
Hey, Ron.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing good. It's okay that we record this and post this information?
Yeah, absolutely.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
cool. Cool. All right.
Hi,
Hi, Dan.
Dan. Hey, how are you? Let me just get my headset working. Because as of now, can you hear me right now at all?
Yeah, we hear you.
Hey, the video you did promoting RPM a few weeks back was really good. I wanted to thank you for that. We really
Yeah.
appreciate you being out there and pushing this issue, and appreciate you having us on. It's nice to Talk Mod's a good friend of SEMA's, and we really appreciate what you're doing out there.
Yeah, appreciate you guys watching it. I mean, it's trying to help the whole purpose of the channel is to really help the community, like learn different subjects, not just. I mean, yes, there's news-worthy stuff, so we cover the news stuff, but I'm trying to also do like the products and stuff like that because I'm doing it through Mod Bargains anyway. So like, I'm trying to make sure that it happens more of as it's a new channel, but just to you know teach enthusiasts about everything that goes on, not just one specific thing or one car build. I think there's so many, it's such a big industry that we have. So
Kind of the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would just associate myself with Dan's comments. I mean, you do a great job with this, and
thanks.
they're thoughtful segments. They're really informative, and it's helpful, to kind of get that information out there in a streamlined way. It really is.
Appreciate that.
We are talking with Eric and Dan from SEMA, right? And I'll let you guys introduce yourself, and we'll be covering some subject topics about the RPM Act and what's going on. So go ahead.
My name is Daniel Ingber. I'm the VP of Government Legal Affairs for SEMA. I run SEMA's Washington, D.C. office, or a small but elite group of people who are advancing the interests of the aftermarket and motorsports enthusiasts, both in Washington and all of the 50 states. So I'm really happy to be here, Ron. And I want to introduce Eric Snyder, who's our federal lobbyist.
Thanks, Dan. Eric Snyder, Director of Congressional Relations for SEMA, and enjoyed representing the industry and working with Congress to help communicate the importance of the hobby and all the jobs associated with it.
Awesome, guys. I mean, there's thousands of us who are basically all resting our hopes with you guys. So you guys are incredibly
No
important.
pressure, though,
Yeah, no
right?
pressure, no pressure, none at all. So, yeah. So I mean, there's a bunch of questions we've asked people what their questions were, and kind of just I tried to summarize it and put it together and try to put some of the questions together. So I'm just gonna throw them out there for you guys. So the first one is, what is the timetable looking like for getting the bill passed in the House? Do you guys have a date? And then what is and with that like, what's the pros? How many are for it? How many are against it? And how likely do you guys think it's gonna, pass?
Well, I'm going to let Eric answer the questions about what's going on in the process in the House and Senate. But before we do that, do you mind if I just give a very quick encapsulation of what the RPM Act does?
Yeah.
So just so for your audience, if they don't know by now, which I'm pretty sure they do, the RPM Act ensures that cars that are driven exclusively on the track, that started their life as street vehicles, can be driven without any fear of enforcement from the EPA. And that people who sell parts to convert cars from street cars to competition-only vehicles can do so without fear of enforcement from the EPA. Because after all, a car that's driven exclusively on the track that was once a street vehicle is no different from a purpose-built race car. And the EPA certainly has no jurisdiction over that. They don't even maintain it. So it doesn't make sense for the EPA to claim that once a car is a street vehicle, it's always under regulation. Even when it's trailered to the track, it's got a roll bar, and it's clear it doesn't have a license plate. It's clearly a competition vehicle. So that's all the RPM Act does, is it clarifies that in the law and pushes back against the EPA's overreaching interpretation. But with that, I'm going to hand over to Eric to talk about your question, the status of the bill, and who's for it, against, etc.
Yeah.
Thanks. So technically, under this session of Congress, we have until January 3rd, 2023, in order to pass the RPM Act. But the reality is, we can't afford to be a patient bunch. This issue is too important, especially in light of EPA's enforcement activity against motorsports parts businesses. Time's of the essence. It's our priority to pass the RPM Act into law in 2021. Obviously, we're riding a surge of excitement behind the bill. We've seen 1.3 million enthusiasts write to Congress. The number's off the charts.
Wow.
And it's pretty remarkable. And we can't thank enthusiasts, people in the industry, programs like this enough for really educating the motorsports parts community, racers, everybody, that we're all in this together, and that we need to really unite, speak with one voice, and get this done for the future of the industry and for our hobby. Look, we're excited about the support that it has in Congress as well. The bill was officially introduced roughly about a month ago. We now have 75 sponsors of the bill in the House of Representatives. That's really impressive. It gets noticed. We're talking about 1 out of 6 lawmakers are already publicly supporting the bill. And
that's great.
Yeah, it's off to a good start, but we need to make some real progress this summer. And so what we're focused on right now is working with the committees of jurisdiction in order to get this moving. We need to have the bill passed out of committee. We need this to be discussed, and this is a top priority for SEMA, and lawmakers understand that.
That's awesome. That's very positive. So yeah, well, there's the numbers that I was hoping to find out. Was 1.3 million. That's incredible. And are we still looking to get more people to just continue to sign it? I mean, what's the objective?
Absolutely. Yes, we are actively trying to get that drumbeat to continue in Washington, so they hear the voice of this industry. This industry is huge. It's a hobby. It's a lifestyle. It's a business. It's a lot it's a passion industry for a lot of people, and we are committed to getting that message to the Hill. So there's never an end. We want to keep that drumbeat going and keep those letters going to Congress and keep that message going.
So is it best to just sign the RPM Act that we've got through SEMA, or is it also better to just send letters directly to senators and House representatives? That's kind of where do you guys think is the best course of action?
We make it easy. I mean, what we do is that when you go to the SEMA.org/RPM or SaveOurRacecars.com, we make it easy for you to click on a link. It will automatically send to your congressperson, and it will give you the message to send to them. So we always recommend that, because if I don't know a lot of people who are going to take the time to pull out their stationery, get a calligraphy pen, get a stamp. I mean, I don't even know if I have stamps anymore. So
I'll send you some, Dan.
So I'm going to direct people to the easy route, and that's to go to our website.
Yeah, I agree.
So Ron, there are other things people can do. We love the fact that people are posting the link on social media. This 1.3 million signatures to Congress, it wouldn't have happened without social media, without great automotive media that are really pushing this. And getting us to speak with one voice is really a big deal, because I think we know that we've got a diverse community of enthusiasts out there that have various passions. But it's awesome to see everybody really teaming up and doing this. And the reality is, we've made it into a simple process. If there's more you want to include in your letter, you can modify SEMA's letter. You have that freedom to do it. Our goal in this process is to respect everybody's time. We know that folks are busy working on their vehicle,
Yes.
going out there, enjoying it, and working their day job. And the time for political advocacy, is sparse for a lot of people. But if you want to pick up the phone, call your lawmaker, you want to go to a town meeting, there's a lot of ways you can get involved in this issue.
Very good. So I'm going to go now into the actual bill, and there's been some of the criticism and kind of the question that arises with the RPM Act. It's specifically for race cars and for vehicles that are being used for race cars. Now, on my side, as I'm a retailer, right, and there's manufacturers and so forth, in the past there was for race use only, and there were waiver forms and so forth. If the RPM Act passes, does that allow that to exist? And then, is it now on the end user? So manufacturers can continue, retailers can now sell parts. Would that be allowed? Basically, is the question.
These are really good questions, Ron. And some of it are going to come down to the actual regulations that EPA promulgates under the RPM Act, which obviously can never contradict the RPM Act. It has to be within the framework of the RPM Act. But I'm going to give you some general answers on all that. First of all, the RPM Act doesn't allow. It will remain illegal under the Clean Air Act to manufacture, install, sell, or install defeat devices or anything that takes the car out of its original configuration for street use, right? Mm-hmm. Now, we both know that, particularly for cars, it's minimal, it's de minimis. The number of cars being driven out there that are just really has no environmental impact. But that's not the policy, and that's not SEMA's position. Like we think that illegal, we don't support illegal activity, no matter what it is. What they are now, the other your more fine-tuned questions, like, can you simply say it's for race use only, right? Yeah. The answer to that is probably no. The EPA is going to be, I think, pretty vigilant with respect to just merely saying, checking the box, or I certify I'm using this for race use only. But the RPM Act will put the burden on them to show that the parts are being sold for street use. And how they do that, they have ways of doing that. And they have ways of trying to, whether it's manufacturing or selling or whatever, even going back to the number of units sold, right? There's a certain lack of plausibility if you're selling tens of thousands of units that they're all being sold for trailer vehicles, right? Right. So I don't think we're ever going to be in a position where we're going to be able to say, this is for race for selling, we're immune from a manufacturer or retailer sale for it. The other issue is that they're not likely to go after the end user, because that's onesie twosies for them. They want their stats, and they want their easy money, and they want to put their demand letters together and get a settlement from businesses, right? Right. They're still going to try to find ways to go after businesses, but what we want is them not going after businesses that are selling race parts for race use, and that's what RPM is going to do. It's going to make it so that the EPA cannot go after people manufacturing, selling, or installing race parts for race.
How do you define? How would a race car be defined? Is that something that's a non-op registered vehicle, or
used exclusively for competition? Those are the words that are used in the bill itself. So a motor vehicle that was used exclusively for competition should no longer be under the purview of EPA enforcement.
Right, but how is that proven? I mean, that's kind of the question.
That's where the rubber hits the road, no pun intended. But that's actually in some ways wait to be seen. But because of how the regs work and everything else, but the RPM Act will put that burden. That burden will be on the EPA, to show, hey, we've got a violation, and it's only a violation if it's sold for street use, right? Right. There's obvious characteristics wrong. Like, if there's a license plate, it's probably not, it's being used on a vehicle. Now, what manufactured for means, what sold for means, because you don't know what the end user is doing.
Yeah.
Those are all complicated questions when it comes to enforcement. And it's up to the EPA to make those cases. But what we have right now is the ability of the EPA to put a chill over the entire industry by saying, hey, if you make a part that can go on a motor vehicle, we have the ability to enforce it against you. And they're like, trust us, we won't do it against true racers. But I don't trust them, and you shouldn't trust them.
Right. Okay. I mean, I guess I'm kind of speaking here from personal experience. When I dealt with the EPA on this subject, I had customers who were using products and they had proven it with pictures of here it's on the track and I track it, but I don't have a trailer, so I have to take it on the street for a short bit, but I exclusively just drive it, but I have to drive it on the street. I can't afford to buy a trailer and a truck.
Right. And like I said, we both know that when it comes to the EPA's mission to make the environment cleaner, they should not be touching that stuff. Like, it's just irrelevant. The number of the weekend warrior is not creating, plumes of black smoke coming out. It's not related to our total EPA, but it is technically illegal, and it remains illegal to take a car out of its original certification and within limits and drive it on the street. Yeah. So I'll leave it at that.
So I guess it's kind of like a follow-up question to this. If it does pass, let's say the RPM passes, yay, we've gone one step. Is there a strategy now in place for the second half for the street cars for that industry? I mean, whether it's a tax, like, hey, it's a registered vehicle that we could all pay an extra amount. Hey, we have a modified vehicle.
And so many good ideas out there.
Yeah.
Stamp tax or like a tradable permit, certain number of vehicles. There's so many good policy ideas to allow racers to race. What we have to do is get RPM passed first and assess the political environment. This isn't an easy one right now. This and the kind of things that are going to make exemptions to the Clean Air Act for street use are a very hard road to hoe from a policy standpoint, given this political environment. So I don't want to get.
Yeah.
The odds would be very, very low against being able to get something passed. Now, if the political environment changes, there may be opportunities for some of these policies. But right now, we're focused on getting the RPM Act through, which is in itself a task in itself. So
right, it's the first step before we can have a real conversation.
And we will really look at those things. Absolutely.
Okay, I think that's what everyone is kind of watching this as the initial. Okay.
And we know, SEMA's not, our head isn't in the sand. We know what matters to people, and we know what's real, like what can be done. And we're out there doing our best for it.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys obviously talk to the EPA from time to time regarding different subjects. Have they ever produced information on, how modified and tuned vehicles are harmful to the environment, and how current was the information? Because considering today's modern catalytics and so forth, I've heard of some states particularly, it's just emissions testing. But like, for example, in California, there's a visual inspection. Even though the car might pass emissions, it's still going to fail visual. So what studies are actually done by the EPA, and where is this all coming from that we're being targeted so heavily?
Well, I'm going to speculate a little out of turn. I think it comes from the Volkswagen scandal. I think that's what really got them focused on vehicles. And when it comes to metrics, they do put out pollution, but it tends to really demonstrate that the biggest problem are things like fleet trucks, right? They don't dissect it to a way where we're looking really at the effects that racers are doing. They group it in, with diesel defeat, with fleet trucks, with everything else, and then they show those mobile source pollution figures, right?
Right.
But I don't think they've made a compelling case that this should be an enforcement priority. Not that I'm gonna, but like I said, they do what they do, and a lot of what they do is they try to enact quick settlements by sending demand letters, knowing that people don't have the money to litigate these cases to the end, right? So it's a little bit of a game.
Right. A lot of the businesses, I mean, myself and everyone else, it's very, very difficult. It's a hard feeling too. You feel like you're a criminal. The way they
Right.
treat you, you feel like you're a
And
criminal. Like you've
lawyers are
done
expensive. I mean, I'm a
very.
lawyer. Do you know how much these last 10 minutes have cost you, Ron? I mean, you have no idea what bill you're. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. Okay. So I guess that's yeah. I mean, it's trying to figure out where it is in the. Is that even a case when you guys are talking to the EPA? Like what the environmental effects are? I mean, like why are they targeting it? Has this been brought up with them?
Constantly talking to them about things like this, trying to really align their priorities, align the industry, align fairness, due process, and what we think, makes big environmental impact. But ultimately, they're going to make their decisions for the reasons they do. But we're constantly having that dialogue with them.
I guess the last question I have for you guys is, what do you guys suggest moving forward for everybody else that's out there, the audience, and what do we do from here on out? What do you guys want us to do in spreading the word? And before we can get this, we've got to get this passed, obviously. So, what do we need to do next?
Well, I love that question, of course. Eric, why don't we talk a little bit about what they can do to help push RPM over the finish line?
I would say keep doing what you're doing. It's being noticed. Lawmakers on a regular basis, we're talking to them. They're noticing the social media interactions. They're being overwhelmed with letters. And this can't stop until the RPM Act becomes law. So lawmakers really focus on what they're hearing about. And they're hearing from millions of people all over the country about a whole host of issues. There are no shortage of challenges that we face in the US right now as a country. And you have to keep it in front of them. And that's really what it boils down to. So keep sending the letters. I don't care how many times you've sent it already. Keep doing that.
And spread the word. Spread the word on social media.
There was talks with doing rallies in front of the White House or in different states where rallies could happen in different states. What about like a national day where everybody rally in a peaceful rally? Or rallies, or having a certain person that's a more famous person be a spokesperson. That was another suggestion that I heard from people. Have you guys thought about something like that? I mean, I was thinking the rally could bring in a lot of attention. You got news outlets and so forth where we could pick a day in every state and people can come out and support, and it'd be a general rally to support the RPM Act across the entire U.S.
So Ron, it's a great idea. I think the challenge is coming to Washington D.C. is expensive.
Yeah, maybe not in Washington D.C. I'm saying where people can do it in local cities across at the same day, same time, basically, and different groups. And as an enthusiast, we love going to rallies. Everybody, I'm sure you guys have been to rallies, like with car rallies I'm talking about, and with a common message from each of these car rallies. So
these are all great ideas, and I love the enthusiasm and the creativity of the enthusiasts. I think that's really important. We do look at all these kinds of event-oriented things and seeing what we can get our bang for our buck and where our resources are best spent. So we are, these and more are all things that we look at.
If you guys think it would be cool, I mean, I'm thinking it's a pretty cool idea. Maybe we could do something like that. I would love for us to coordinate maybe a date. That's just an idea that I'm throwing out there as we were talking. So I did not have that planned. So I think a lot of the enthusiasts out there and different channels and different social media groups can all rally together. And I think it could be a very, it's a good way for to get it noticed, by other people that are not aware about what's happening, particularly to this hobby and as enthusiasts. So.
Yeah.
I appreciate you mentioning it. I mean, I think anything we can do to raise the profile of this issue and keep that excitement level is a good thing. We as an association like to invite lawmakers out to SEMA member companies. It's the equivalent of show and tell. Lawmakers need to understand what our industry is. And there are a number of members of Congress who are enthusiasts themselves. but that's not certainly the majority of members of Congress. And so it's really translating our world and bringing it to them. And another way we can do this is inviting them out to the racetrack, videos on social media. But the idea of rallies is exciting, and we'll look forward to talking with you more about it.
Great. All right, guys, I really appreciate this, and I really appreciate you guys. So thank you, Eric. Thank you, Dan, and if you have anything you guys want to say,
anytime, we're here for you. Any questions your audience has, you can always field them over to us, and whatever it is. So keep the channels open. Without talking.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Bye.